I'd like to welcome everyone to the September 11th, 2019 regular meeting of the Moose Lake City Council. And I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for being here. And the first item after the Pledge of Allegiance is the agenda. We do have one addition under 6H, purchase price discussion on land. And that'll be part of the closed discussion area. Do we have any other changes, corrections, or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
You have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 2A, this is a consent agenda. 2A1, we have the minutes for August 14th, 2019, City Council regular meeting minutes. And number 2, the September 5th, 2019 Working Council meeting minutes. Any discussion or motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 2B, financial reports, 2B1, we have the city accounts payable for September 2019. Number 2, the city financial statements for August 2019. Number 3 is the liquor store profit loss statement for August 2019. Discussion, questions by the council? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the financial reports?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, this is a public comment time. This time is reserved for comments from the public on matters not listed on the agenda. Please keep comments to 3 minutes. It's like our own individual didn't show up. So hearing none, we will move on to number 4, department reports. 4A is the police chief, department report for August 2019.
Mayor, Council, City Administrator. We had another busy month. Our Aga Days was very well attended. It was over, I don't know how many, I couldn't even tell you how many people were out on that street that day, but we directed traffic pretty much all day because of the arena. And everything went real smooth. It was very well attended. As well as the National Night Out, we had well over 500 that we served and cooked for, and it seemed to be a very successful event this year again. It seems to be growing every year. And that we've been pretty busy with just our normal call volumes. Any questions I can answer or anything else?
Do you want to add to that, City Administrator? Maybe I'll make the mention, part-time officer Brian Knezevic resigned on August 24th. Chief Owenholm went out on leave on August 25th. Sergeant McNulty is acting chief at this time. And it sounds like he had mandatory training for everyone on Monday, September 9th.
You know, we just did that one. Nice and wet, lots of rain.
Looks like you had another total of over 150 calls again.
Yeah, it's been a busy month, but it's all went well.
Any questions by the council?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Public Works Superintendent report.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, busy month for us as well. I hate to say this, but we're starting to get ready for winter, and I know everyone doesn't want to hear that, but that's life. So, that one's out of the bag, I guess, whatever. Water department, distributed 3.7 million gallons of drinking water in the month of August. New water service is being installed over here on 5th Street. I'm sure somebody has seen detours, temporary detours, that kind of stuff, so everything went well there. Fire hydrants, we're planning on flushing them here the week of the 23rd. I believe we'll have a notice in the paper, that's correct? Yes, we will, very good. The public can expect dirty water and low pressure at certain times. It should be just throughout the daytime hours though, so. Sewer department collected 11.2 million gallons of wastewater. I know it's just a number, but if you think about it, last month was 17.5. Month before that, I think we were over 20. We had hardly any rain this last month, very little. Just to throw in your back pocket how much I&I we have in this town and how big an I&I problem we do have.
I think the bill that we sent for Windermere for the sanitary sewer district went from a little over $7,000 to a little over $4,000. So
It was considerably low.
it was not quite half, and their system is considerably newer in the grand scheme of things than ours. So just even their I&I is noticeable every time that it rains. Ours is that much worse.
So just keep that in the back of your minds. I'm always up here preaching about it, so is Tim, but there's some truth to some of our knowledge. So started discharging here last week at the ponds. We got 38 million gallons there. Our phosphorus treatment went well. That would happen the end of August. So far, we're meeting all our limits. We're right in the middle of it, so I won't know until the end of it, which will be the end of next week. So, the station cleaning is also taking place this week. You see us running around, lights going off, big trucks in town that don't usually go in town. That's what we're doing. We did finish the 4th year sanitary sewer cleaning program, so now we have covered the entire town once, complete cleaning. It was the first time it's ever been done. It was horrible. So it is a very good thing what we were doing. Hats off to my guys, because I tell you, we see some crazy stuff. It's unbelievable. So anyway, whatever. Also, I gotta say, on 7th August, we hosted a wastewater training for Minnesota Rural Water. That was a really good deal. I think we had 30 or 40 in attendance, and it was a good thing. So it was headed up at the depot. We're gonna do a water-based training next year up at the depot as well, at the same time. I know Greg, he was up there. Did you get lunch?
No, they wouldn't feed me.
I was cooking. I would have fed you. No, it was a good time. It was a good turnout. A lot of people, a lot of networking, a lot of communication, a lot of communities having the same problems we are. So it was really good to see that. Well, it's not good to see problems, but it's good to have more people to bounce ideas off of and more networking options for all of us to go and talk to people and try to battle this together. So it was good. Street department, pothole filling, monthly basis. I think last week we did that, finished that last week. Touch-ups on the Woodlands Trail parking lot, we finished that last week too. And cemeteries there. Cemeteries, it looks beautiful out there. It's for a cemetery, it's a nice place out there. You go out there, it's peaceful, it's quiet, it looks good, it looks sharp.
Big improvement.
Yeah, it looks very, very nice. So, the water is back on at both cemeteries too. I know last meeting we had some issues there, but they're both taken care of and everything's all done there. So, I think that's all I got. Anything for me?
Dug up 5th Street?
I'm sorry?
You guys dug up 5th Street?
We did. That was the new water service we did.
Okay.
Yep, so, I wish I had more for you on that one, but I don't.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That parking lot turned out great. Looks fantastic. Good job on that.
Oh, up here,
On the
yeah,
truck.
yeah, that was a good deal. That looks really nice. Big improvement, so.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Technology and library report, 4C, Mr. Administrator.
We haven't met with the technology company in the last month, and we also haven't had any issues, so nothing new for technology. As far as the library goes, we We didn't meet in the last month. I think probably the biggest thing that we haven't pointed out yet is that there's also gonna be a fall book sale. There's a spring book sale that's done annually. The Friends of the Library requested to start doing a second book sale. They have that many books that are donated, and they're planning on doing that, and then obviously donating the money to the library for some additional computers for the public to use. The ones that we have in the library are extremely old, so that's what the money for that will be going towards.
You mentioned French Library, did they start up that?
Yeah, there's like 30 people or something that
Wow.
joined the Friends of the Library.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Any questions for the administrator? Hearing none, we'll move on. City engineer?
Yeah, we met, couple big things, the trail that we've been talking about for the last year. We are going to meet and walk, the path, and kind of figure out some trouble areas on Monday. If anybody's interested in walking with us, that is Monday, the 16th at 10 o'clock. We're gonna meet here, just cover a couple things quick, and then we're gonna take a little bit of a tour. I don't know if we're gonna drive some of it, it's along the highway, but there's a couple wetland areas, there's a couple areas that we might need to purchase some land to get the trail through, but just kind of go over some of the planning phases. We're still well in advance of construction, so we're just kind of chipping away at some of the things that need to get done. Other than that, we talked a little bit about well siting. Part of the holdup with that is the need to, well, not the need, but the desire to purchase a little bit of property for the new well house. We did talk about some of the design of the building, things like that, but we'll talk a little bit about the land later on. And then finally, and if anybody has any questions, they can ask Phil about it, but we did televise the campground. Just in planning for the wells, want to make sure that the sewer mains that are down there and the collection is all contained to the lift station and to the line, the sewer main that they're supposed to be in, and not getting into the water. So I think our engineers are reviewing that right now, and any issues we will be looking to correct. So those are the main things from our engineering meeting.
Questions, discussion by the council? And then I'll move on. Chamber of Commerce updates?
Can't reach up that far. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thanks for having me again. I don't remember if I was here in August, but I'll kind of bring you up to speed. Here we are in September, and all of our big events, except one on Saturday, have passed us, and we limped along all summer without having an executive director. If you didn't notice, I brought somebody with me, and I'd asked her to stand up. This is our new executive director. I'm not sure if any of you have met her yet, but this is your opportunity. Allison Jones. She started with us mid to late August, I believe. She is a dynamo. I mean, she's really just jumped right in and gotten to work. So I'm gonna let her tell you a little bit maybe about Brewfest coming up on Saturday. So, Allison Jones.
Thank you, Tia. Again, I'm Allison. It's an honor to be here, so thank you. So this Saturday, we have Brewfest, which is going to be at Gampers Bowling. As of right now, we have 14 confirmed breweries and distilleries at our event. We have some games with prizes from local businesses that have donated to our event. $25 at the door, $20, we still have some Brewfest tickets. It's just a really fun event to kind of celebrate maybe summer ending, fall beginning, however you would like to look at it. I think it's just going to be a really fun time. Sample different beers and brews from around Minnesota, and also win some prizes. Anything else about Brewfest? Oh, okay, yes. So a little bit about me. I'm originally from Georgia. I moved here 5 years ago to take up a job at One Heartland, which is the summer camp in Willow River. And there I was the program coordinator. So what that really means, in the summertime, my job is to make sure that camp is a life-changing experience for our campers and the summer staff. But then in the non-summer months, helped with fundraising, helped with recruitment, training, and a little bit of everything else that pertains to running a summer camp, which a lot of what One Heartland taught me, I've been able to bring to the chamber, and really looking forward to meeting everyone and trying to remember everyone's names along with that. And then just bringing my passion for just helping others to the chamber. So I'm just really excited to do that and to be more involved in the community. So I also really love Minnesota and have picked up a lot of new hobbies that are very Minnesota based, like agate hunting, and bike riding, and pickleball, which is my new obsession. But yeah, I love Minnesota and glad to be a part of it. So
Thanks, yeah, welcome too.
thank you, appreciate it.
You know, we have one more event here, or item under 6B, and I can jump into the city lodging tax if you will wait around.
Yep, that was gonna be
Okay.
the next thing I was gonna talk about, so if you wanna do
Okay.
it now, or,
Yeah, for the council, are there any questions council has first? Hearing none, we'll go to 6B, city lodging tax. Jump ahead.
yeah, so thank you for allowing me to talk a little bit about that. The chamber, this is something that we put on our strategic plan 3 years ago, probably, was to look at implementing a lodging tax in the city of Moose Lake. Clearly, we didn't jump right on that because 3 years have gone by, but we would like to revisit it now. We think with some changeover that has happened in the community, with both of the hotels, and really educating ourselves a little bit more as to what it all entails, we thought now was probably the better time to come back to the council for the lodging tax. The one thing I think that was a little misunderstood about the lodging tax, it is not a tax assessed on our community members whatsoever. Actually over 85 communities throughout Minnesota and hundreds of thousands of communities across the United States impose a lodging tax. People are used to it. People don't even generally know. I can say with certainty that I expect it. When I travel, and I travel all over the country, when I go somewhere, I know that, you know, whatever the quoted rate is, it's going to be more because there will be a lodging tax of some sort. And so the lodging tax monies, they're collected, of course, by the city or the entity. The city does retain a small portion. I think it's 5%. Don't quote me. That's what I see here, but I can't say that that's law. But that's really for compensating for the expense of collecting the tax. So the remaining amount should go to a local convention or tourism bureau for the purpose of marketing and promoting the city or town as a tourist or convention center. And we don't have that. Right now the chamber acts as that tourism arm for Moose Lake and the surrounding area. And we get somebody like Allison and we want to use her 120% and she wants to give us 150%. But we're limited with the dollars that we have, that we can use towards tourism. This would go a long ways. And I've talked with now, again, gearing up for this, friends of mine, maybe clients or whatever, in different towns that are in the lodging industry. And they don't mind the tax at all because it rolls back and helps them. What we have to do with those monies is we have to advertise, come to Moose Lake, come to this area, this is what we have to offer. We can do it on a national scale, we can do it on a local scale, we can do it just a Minnesota scale. Right now we lack the funds to do that. So we're kind of hunt-peck doing whatever we can. I might say I think we've done a fair job, but I think we could do a much better job if we had some revenue to devote towards that specifically. I do have language that is the policy, or the ordinance, I guess, that the city of Hinckley uses. I can get you any other cities. I'm sure Tim has access to any other cities' ordinances. But I think 3% is kind of what we've looked at and has been the calculation. Cities you can set it at anything you want to. But to get it started, I think the chamber would definitely be in support of that. Do you have questions or concerns? I can try to answer if I can't. If I don't have an answer for you, I will get back to you.
do have a question.
Sure.
Has anybody talked to the new owners of the motel?
So we talked about that at our meeting last month, and we don't have our meeting until tomorrow, so I didn't get back if they were in touch, but I do know that they have a hotel in Detroit Lakes, and Detroit Lakes does also have a city tax, so I have to believe that they're familiar with it, but I can't say with certainty, but I can get back to you on
Because
that.
I do remember the last time it was brought up, the smaller motel was opposed to it,
Yeah.
so.
And I think it was, actually, in having those conversations with that particular person, there was a little bit of misunderstanding of what it is, on both parts, so both the larger hotel and the smaller hotel. Some education on what it's used for and how it's imposed and who it's imposed on, really kind of opened up their eyes a little bit. So I think it was probably on our part, lack of education. We just said we want, instead of saying this is what it does. So, we will own that, so.
Any processes you want to speak about?
Sure, we, on page 53 in your packet is the city ordinance from the city of Proctor. It's for 3%. It would be the exact same thing that we would be looking at here. The only difference was that the city had a tourism person that worked for the city rather than the chamber. So their 10% of the money was for administration. 5% of the money was allocated towards more like historical markers. And then the remainder of it went towards tourism. Just as Tia said, the important piece with this was, for instance, when I was in Proctor, all of the hotels had a seat on the tourism board, and they were just as much a part of spending those funds as the city was, because they understood that all the money that was spent or collected and then spent was all simply to bring people back into the hotel. So it was just a big cycle. Everybody there was certainly for it. You can't go to Cloquet, Hermantown, Proctor, Duluth. Duluth is huge, but any of those communities without paying a lodging tax. If you go to the cities, it's a ridiculous tax, which we would not be proposing anything even remotely close to that. But I do think that as the chamber gets larger and larger, that there needs to be ways to continue to build on the events that it already has, and build new events. And this is certainly a great way to do it. It's not, obviously it's not imposed on residents, but also it's just like the sales tax. The idea is to receive some funding from people that are coming to our community, and they're paying on top of their bill. It's not a tax put on the hotels, even it's people paying for hotel rooms are funding this. So I think that this is a great idea to fund the chamber. It's a very simple process as far as the city goes. We looked at the state statute. It does not need state approval. It's simply an ordinance that the council can pass. Yeah, I think it's pretty simple, actually.
So questions by the council? Sounds like, I guess the next step would be looking at an ordinance.
I think the next step that even the chamber would agree to is, I do think that we still need to have a conversation with the new owners of the hotel and reach out to them so that it's not just pushed on them without them
That
knowing.
may have happened already. It was we talked about it last month. I just haven't connected with the people
Sure.
that were going to do that. I would go one step further also and say we did talk about creating a committee within the chamber to deal with this specifically. And so that's where we could invite those owners in to have a say into what we use those funds for.
And I think the last attempt, we were the same idea, whatever committee that was formed, the owners of both, motels at that time would be part of that. And of course, now we're just, goes on. And well, the campground.
Yeah, would this affect campgrounds? It would.
So the caveat with the lodging tax is that anybody that stays for 30 days or longer is no longer part of the lodging tax. So your seasonal campers are not part of this lodging tax. It would be more for your tenters or people coming in for the weekend. We would probably need to track things a little bit differently than how we do in the campground right now. But I really don't foresee that being the large, I mean, that's a pretty small portion of the money that comes into the campground when you consider that how many seasonal sites that we have and the cost that goes with that.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I think from our standpoint, where's the chamber meeting tomorrow?
Oh, it's in Barnum at the Rustic Diner, so at noon. We would invite any of the council members to come. I know Walt and Tim and Ted usually are there. Any of you three, if you'd like to attend, we have fun. If not, no.
She's inviting you. Please don't come. That's a violation.
Oh, I suppose I
That's a
didn't-
violation.
I didn't
of
look
the
it
meeting
up,
law.
so.
But I do appreciate that.
Well, but you know, if you're not actually talking business, then it's okay, but.
What I was going to say is I think what we'll do, the next steps for this would be is I will go tomorrow. Ted's on board. Walt usually goes to them as well. So I think we'll have enough voices. We'll come back with any information and maybe start working on an ordinance. Not for the first reading, but maybe to look at for the next meeting and put some thought into for November.
Very good, thank you. So moving back to number 5, previously discussed business. This is 5A, special assessment policy versus general fund levy, and there's electric finance fee.
Yeah, so one of the things that came up at our working budget meeting was the consideration for the franchise fee that we have with the electric utility. You had asked that I come back with some figures on what an increase on the electric fee that transfer to the city would look like. I will say, if anybody wanted to pass the special assessment policy or the general levy, we could just skip right over this. But anyways, the electric rate is this packet right here that's on your table. It's a few pages and it just presents things a little bit differently each time. So on the first page, the first note there is the general fund rate, which is based on usage. So kilowatt hours times that rate is how we collect that. The total amount collected each year is right around $150,000. I don't think even Sally could find out when the last time the rate was changed. I think it was imposed and just left alone from then on. So it hasn't really been looked at for probably decades. As far as rate options, this is just kind of jumping ahead for the remainder of this conversation. So changing the rate from what it's at now to 0.0055 per kilowatt hour would be $32,000 of additional income. 0.006 is just short of $50,000, and then 0.065 would be $65,385. So you can kind of see when we're talking about this gap in funding for road projects, this is not going to be some sort of immediate solution. This will be a piece of the puzzle, or could be a piece of the puzzle, just like sales tax and the gas franchise fee. So any increase here, I certainly would not suggest that we go above this. I probably would not even suggest that we do the 0.065. But you can kind of tell how much of additional revenue could be brought in based on these rates. The next table is what is currently brought in from some of the major larger entities as well as residential. So for instance, each year Mercy Hospital is about $15,000, MSOP, DOC, you can see those, the school. I will say 2016, clearly something just went wrong with calculating their transfer. So maybe just look at 18 and 17 for them. Churches, we did include churches, just the same as residential. Churches, the only issue that comes up with calculating this for churches is we have about 3 that are really large. and then we have 6 or 7 that are pretty small. So this averages them out, but it doesn't really tell the true story. It's more like 1,500 for your really, really large ones and 500 for your small ones. So it kind of tells you a little bit, but not a true picture. And then residential, obviously, is $32.45. So the second page, actually the second and third page, are breakouts of a few different things. So let's just look at Mercy Hospital. The first line is their total electric bill for the year. This allows us to kind of put in comparison what this fee is, rather than just looking at the fee compared to an increase in the fee. The reason that I did this is increasing each of those steps on the first page. It amounts to be like 21% of an increase to this fee, when in reality, you're talking about more like 0.67% when looking at the dollar amount. So 444,000 would be the annual bill, 37,000 would be the monthly bill. The general fund monthly transfer that comes from them is $1,266. So now the next two numbers kind of break out what the difference would be if we increased it to 0.0055 or 0.006. You can tell the dollar amount, which is off to the side there. The annual difference for the first one would be just under 3,000. The annual difference for the second one would be 4,616. Now, when I was looking at this seems like a lot of money. You know, an additional $4,000 is a lot of money. When you break it out based on a percentage of their actual bill, you're talking about 0.67% or 1%. So when we were originally looking at this, we were looking at whether it would make sense to do a special assessment versus a property tax levy on what would amount to be 30% of the residents. And when we went over this, we were talking about, say, a 10% increase gets us $100,000, or a 5% increase gets us $100,000. Whereas for this, if we look at doing a 1% increase to somebody's bill, that brings in that same $50,000. So you can start to see how the 70% tax exempt that we are, when you look at taxing just the 30% at an additional 5% levy increase, it's really the same thing as a much lower amount if we're allowed to get that fee over everybody that's in Moose Lake. You can tell the difference, the same thing for the school, MSOP and DOC. These are the larger entities. The third page breaks out the smaller ones. So this page is very, very similar. It's right around 1% of increase per month for the larger rate increase that I listed. On the third page, you get to the smaller entities, so the churches and residential. The reason that this number looks larger is because, quite simply, they don't use as many kilowatt hours, so the general fund transfers a larger portion of their bill. The churches, again, the churches is a bit skewed because you're saying that your very, very small church is the same as your very large one. That's really not a great example. The residential holds a little bit better. It's either a 1% increase or a 1.5% increase. With an annual difference, you're talking $11. So for $11 per year for your residential customers and this larger amount for the prison, MSOP, Mercy, basically you could increase funds for road projects to the tune of about $50,000. This, in my mind, this is a much better option than property taxes. I still think that special assessments have their place. That doesn't seem to be a very popular option at this table. But I do think that when we were talking about the gas franchise fee and sales tax, this is the reason that we were talking about these. This imposes this fee on everyone in our community rather than just the 30% taxpayers. So a lot of information. I will say this, the same thing that we talked about at the budget. If you are not planning on doing a levy increase for road projects, we do not need to decide anything on this tonight. if you would like to do a levy increase for road projects, that we would need to figure out tonight. So the only thing that we are setting tonight is our initial levy, which we cannot come in December and increase. So if you say in December, well, really, we wanted to do a road levy, we can't change that to increase it. So that's why I say we don't need to decide. Some of these, some we do need to decide tonight. Does anybody have any questions on this?
This is really good information, thank you.
Yes.
This is, to me, what we're looking for, more in line with what.
It
Would
certainly
really
makes,
help.
it certainly makes more sense than some of the other options. Some of them.
Because a lot of these large, well, this first page, our largest users are not paying any
Right.
tax.
I was a bit surprised to see those top four, when you consider that we're bringing in $150,000. Over half of it comes from those top four. So while we say that we're 70% tax exempt, I think we have been doing a pretty good job of figuring out a way to get some funds out of those. Still not anywhere near what property taxes would be, but this is a way to balance the scales a little bit.
Helps very much. Council, any questions or direction? Do you have consensus to move on instead of discuss special assessment or levy?
That would be my wish.
I would like this.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think, just to be clear on kind of what we're gonna do, it makes a bit more sense to me to just leave this on the agenda and maybe bring it up again next month. I'll give you kind of a shorter version of what tonight looked like. Same information, but give you a month to kind of digest. Please, if you have any questions, Sally and Katie were a big part of doing this as well. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to any one of us and we can try to get any other information you need.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on then to 5B, County Prosecution Services Contract. I think it's starting on page 35.
Yes. So the mayor and myself met with the new county attorney, Lori Ketela, as well as our county board representative. What I was hoping was to try to figure out a way out of this, quite frankly. And what I think we quickly realized is there's a state statute that pretty clearly lays this out. Any community that's over a population of 600, it's very clear that they need to pay for prosecution services for misdemeanors that are within their jurisdiction. If anything that we need to do, we might need to do a better job of making sure that we're not taking cases that are in other communities, as in we're paying for the prosecution. But that being said, I think the price that, for the contract that they are suggesting, which would be $16,000, which we updated in the budget, that's for you tonight. It's, I would say about half of what we would be charged from somebody else. So it's not that the price is unfair, it's more so that the gap between the last time that we paid it was so long that we finally took it out of the budget, so it's just kind of stings a little bit putting it back in the budget, but it certainly is necessary. My recommendation is that you have me go back and tell the county attorney that yes, we will enter into this. It would begin January 1st, 2020, and we would not be charged any back payment for the, 4 or 5 years that we have not paid.
Even they didn't know what happened. The bills stopped coming from the county. Somehow things got missed, and And now the new attorney has caught it up by reviewing all of her records and all of her job description that she has to do like that. So. And the last contract was signed by David Talbot in 2008. And you see Ted Tillman on there, and it's just been a while.
Do you need a motion to accept?
Not yet, I don't have a new contract, but I would,
Is she sending the contract?
she will,
She will be sending.
yeah, so long as nobody has any other issues, I will just bring the contract for the next meeting for us to approve.
Very good. Any other questions by the council? Hearing none, we move on to 5C, Tobacco 21 ordinance, example letter to license holders.
Yep, the City of Moose Lake, City of Cloquet, and Carleton County are the only three entities in Carleton County that license tobacco retailers. So the three of us, the three entities met along with the Carleton County Public Health and Human Services, Fond du Lac also licensed their own retailers, so they were there as well. So the four of us met and went over proposed language from, it's not necessarily the Carleton County Public Health and Human Services, but it's somebody that they're working with, put the ordinance together. We went line by line and note by note to kind of cover some of the issues that might come up with this, which I'll go over in a second. But on page 42, if we were to move forward with this, my suggestion would be that we would send this letter out to all tobacco retailers in Moose Lake, offer to meet with them and go over this. We would probably invite Carleton County Public Health and Human Services to come to that meeting as well. They really shouldn't be surprised. This is something that the state even looked at passing statewide. There are a few retailers that are actually imposing this upon themselves already, so it's not exactly new, but it is something that would be a change in Moose Lake that I would want to have a conversation prior to just passing. So starting on page 43 is the actual language of the proposed ordinance. I would suggest that you maybe read it on your own. There are a few things that I want to highlight as maybe topics that I could see being a problem or a thorn in the retailer side if it were me. Starting on page 43, the first page, one of the items there, and it's also listed on page 47, is that this ordinance would not allow any retail sales within 1,000 feet of schools, parks, churches, basically anywhere geared towards people that are 21 years and younger. So one of the things, well, there's a couple things, but the first one would be how we would handle existing retailers, which just off the top of my head, everything that we've done with zoning has always grandfathered people in, and if we were to go with 1,000 feet, I would certainly suggest that we do that. The second thing would be how we would handle anybody new coming in is, do you want 1,000 feet? Do you want 500 feet? Do you want 200 feet? What is it that you want to see for that number? Before we even get into some of the other ones, this is as strict of an ordinance as you will see. So this is geared 100% towards as far as you can go one way and is not in the middle. So anything that we're doing, we're just going to would be pulling back kind of into the middle. So the 1,000 feet, I have not looked to see if we have any retailers within 1,000 feet. Say Quick Trip. Quick Trip is farther than 1,000 feet from the school, but that's not to say that some business might be close to a park. So how would we want to handle that would be something that we would need to decide. Page 47 has a note along the side for any clerk that a retailer has would need to be 21 years of age or older. Now, the problem with this is a lot of our high school kids have jobs at gas stations, Quick Trip, places like that. I think Quick Trip is Quick Trip hires for $12 to $14 an hour, I would have a tough time telling a kid that they can't get a job that pays that well. That being said, the reason that they put this in there is if you go to buy alcohol, you cannot be in there selling that if you are under the age of 21. So if you're changing the legal age of smoking to 21 or selling tobacco to 21, that would then mean something along the lines similar to liquor stores. One of the other reasons that they did this was basically peer pressure. If you're an 18-year-old kid and your 18-year-old friend comes in, are they going to feel some sort of peer pressure in selling to their underage friends? Which I do think that would be a problem. I also don't know that we want to take away jobs from 18-year-old kids. So, something to think about. Page 49 is a section on flavored tobacco. Flavored tobacco would be any form of tobacco, chewing tobacco, cigarettes, cigars, anything like that. Basically, this would not allow any retailer to sell flavored tobacco at all. So I don't think that this is directly in line with the intent of this. I will say that almost anybody would agree that the purpose of flavored tobacco is to get people using tobacco at an earlier age. So that is the purpose for putting this in there, is flavored tobacco is geared towards younger people. That being said, my thought when we were going over this is we're starting to tiptoe into getting into retailers' business a little bit more than just trying to help high school kids not get addicted to tobacco. That's a thought for you all to have. Also on page 49 is price reductions and coupons. This would not allow retailers to offer price reductions or coupons for tobacco products. Here again, I think that I think that we're tiptoeing again into just going after businesses just for the sake of, because they're selling tobacco. The reason being, if you're trying to promote healthy living, why would you also allow a retailer to offer a price reduction if you come in and buy it in bulk? That's the reason that it's in there. Not to say it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but that's why it is in there. Page 51 lists the fines for breaking this ordinance. The dollar amounts in here do not match our existing ordinance. They do not match the state statute. We are allowed to charge whatever we want at a higher rate, I believe, but we don't. We follow the state statute, which so does Cloquet, so does Carleton County, and basically everybody. Now, the purpose of bringing this tonight is I do think that that this is an ordinance that's going to pass through Carleton County and through the city of Cloquet. The hope was that Moose Lake, Carleton County, and the city of Cloquet would all kind of hop on this together and do it basically at the same time with the same language. So if there are items that we want to change in here, we are going to be having another meeting to go over this ordinance and bring back feedback from our city councils or county commissioners to try to knock the language down to something very similar. Those 5 items are really the ones that I would say that we want to take a look at. The rest of it is, quite frankly, this is an ordinance to try to prevent high school kids from getting addicted to using tobacco. There are plenty of 18-year-old kids in high school that are able to start purchasing tobacco and giving it to their friends. That is exactly what this is geared to stop. So, yeah. Any questions on this?
When is your next meeting?
They have not selected the date. They picked like 15 dates to meet for a calendar poll, so I don't know yet.
When are you looking for feedback? Are you looking at
All the-
tonight, or are you
all-
looking from us individually?
Tonight, email, phone, I will say the dates that I said that I could attend were all after our next city council meeting with the intent that I would be able to bring this back to you again prior to meeting with them. So it's not to say that that's the date that they'll select, it's just I was trying to push it beyond our next city council meeting to give everyone time to read it. If you have comments or questions tonight, I will certainly take them, but I would say just take it home, digest it over the next month, and I will try as hard as I can to push this meeting off past our next council meeting.
I
Yes.
do have a question. So the city council will be policing this?
No, the police will still be policing this. The city council passes an ordinance and then passes on the, well, kind of.
Because
So
it says
we
the city council
license,
will
we-
consult with court personnel, educated parents, children, to determine the appropriate penalty for persons. So to me, that sounds like,
yeah, I think are you looking under the penalty section?
yeah,
So-
C.
In order for this to meet the standards of whatever group wrote this, the penalty is not supposed to be imposed on the kid going in trying to buy it. The penalty should be imposed on the retailer for trying to, and allowing somebody 18, 19, 20 to purchase it. As far as the kid going in there and doing it, say a police officer should have a conversation with them about, this is not allowed in our community, here's why. And our real involvement in this is the city council approves tobacco license holders, retailers. The police department already does inspections for retailers on not selling to 18-year-olds. So everything would remain basically the same except 21. Unless you go with all the rest of these things, in which case those would change too.
Do you have any idea where this is sitting at the state level? Or have they talked about bringing this up?
Yeah, they will definitely be bringing it up again. The reason that they said that it did not pass was simply that they got too busy, which is kind of the answer they give to not passing pretty much everything. But I don't know, it grabbed a lot of attention down at the state, and certainly they will take a look at it again.
It just seems like, having all these different counties and different towns, going over all this, it wastes a lot of time and money for these small communities. I just wish the state would tackle this issue and be done with it, so we would sit and make these decisions, which they might in the future. I mean, I agree with this. I like the plans, hearing this. And sometimes I just wonder, I just wish the state would act.
Yeah, and I think the hope from the Public Health and Human Services community was that the state would tackle it as well. After it didn't pass through the state, I think more and more counties are simply just jumping on it themselves, with the thought being that it takes a while to get things passed with the state. I can't remember what she said, but there's a number of communities and counties that have passed this. It's more so just a matter of personal opinion at this point, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious where the state is standing.
Yep.
It may change quickly because it's at a national level too, and they're taking problems.
Yeah.
They may force things at local, the county, state level too.
Actually, I think I just read today that the president's thinking about banning all flavored vaping things. So you're right, there might be some movement on a national level.
Right.
Okay, do you want no other action information at this point until we hear back from you, sounds like?
Unless you would like to offer your opinion on those 5 items, which you do not need to do tonight, I would just ask for anybody to reach out, email, phone, text, whatever you like.
Comments by the council?
We'll reach out.
Thank you. Let's see. Moving on to 6A. We're skipping today. 6A, the 2020 budget. A is the initial levy, B is the truth and taxation public hearing date.
Rory, do you have that PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you put it up there?
There's a handout, I think, don't they?
Yeah, we'll just be going over that PowerPoint. Okay, so for the 2020 preliminary budget, the two things that we need to pass tonight are the initial levy. The initial levy is setting it not as high as you want, but we are not allowed to increase our initial levy in December. So the only thing that we can do is lower it in December. The second thing that we need to set is the truth and taxation public hearing, which would be at our December meeting, just setting a time and date for that meeting. So in front of you is the PowerPoint presentation. It's very similar to what we already went over, so I'll go over it a little bit quicker. Revenues, the general property taxes, there is an increase in the dollar amount. However, the increase comes entirely from the value of Moose Lake increasing, whether it's new businesses, new homes, or just the value of homes increasing. So the tax rate that's included in the PowerPoint and the budget that has been presented to you has a 0% tax rate increase. Sales tax, we're looking at an increase of about $75,000. That's not bringing in additional money. It's more so that's about how much we're bringing in, and we're pretty firm on that now, whereas last year at this time we weren't quite sure. Local government aid raised about $70,000 more than last year. The big story behind this is that it's back to the 2002 levels before LGA was cut, which is nice to see. That does not include inflation, obviously, but we are back to where we basically started. The transfer from power and light we talked about earlier, and campground fees would remain about the same. Expenditures, next slide, Lori. The expenditures, we will be having elections in 2020, so the expenses for those have been added back into the budget. We are going to continue to have the operating transfer to the DMV, which was from shuffling around the positions in the library as well. Wage increases that were proposed are included in the budget. We're planning on a 5% health increase, or health insurance increase across the board. The police department has contractual wage increases, which are included in the budget. Electric utilities are increasing, which are included in the budget. The library remains the same, and then the camera lease ends again February, March, somewhere around there. So the majority of the funds in that department will now be able to go towards improving the equipment that we have. The next slide, slide 4, breaks out departments without any capital improvement projects that they might have. The general government increases are from property insurance as well as general liability insurance. The city council increases are about $1,500. City administration is just under $11,000. Elections, like we talked about last year, we budgeted 0. Now we're adding those elections back in. The community center has a minor increase. The police department includes the new wage increases, additional health insurance coverage for one employee, as well as $16,000 for the prosecution services. The majority of those increases were from those couple of items. Building inspector has no increase. Public Works has a very small increase. Keep in mind that those 3 full-time employees are spread out over 3 different departments, so not everyone's wage increase is included in the same department. Recycling has a slight reduction. Next slide, Rory, slide 5. The depot and annex, parks, and gardens, all of those remain right around the same. Library has a $14,000 decrease. This again took place when we reorganized the library. We also, at this time, when we created the 2019 budget, Steve was still full-time, and we had quite a few changes that needed to be made up to this point. From there, the TIF districts, we will be done collecting and submitting payment back to those districts. The cemetery has a minor increase. Most of the increases come from the cemetery now being run out of the Public Works Department. Cable TV, like we talked about, the cable TV budget is increasing to basically invest in the equipment that we have in our room over here, which probably hasn't been redone for quite a while. And then Riverside Arena has a minor increase as well, which mostly stems from some part-time employees. Slide 6 is the capital improvements. The police department, as we talked about, the big ones there are the interview room that we put in place. It doesn't have a doorway coming from the hallway. You have to go into the fire department and then through a door. So it reorganizes how you enter that room, and then also adds a microphone and camera for interviews. Public Works is looking at replacing the third truck for the full-timers, and then giving the current truck that Phil drives to the cemetery so that they have a vehicle to get back and forth from the two cemeteries. The lawnmower, as we talked about, the lawnmower, one of two things will happen. We'll either purchase that this year from any reserves that we have in our budget, or likely it will just come out of the sewer department for next year and leave a little bit of a gap in funding there. Slide 7, Parks and Rec, that's the campground lawnmower. They currently have 2 really bad lawnmowers, and we'd like to have 1 new lawnmower for them. Riverside Arena has some electrical work for the exterior, a batting cage to help alleviate some space issues with the number of baseball teams that we have in the community, which is great. Another use for the arena is also a positive. And then finally a skate sharpener as well. The community center, we're looking at replacing 1 additional rooftop unit, doing some painting, replacing the carpet, just general upkeep for the building to try to keep it going. Slide 8, the capital improvement by department just shows how those funds slide from department to department. The overall capital improvement budget remains the same. Slide 9 is the budget summary, breaking out the revenues and operating expenses along with the capital expenses. The total net income proposed for the year is about $38,000 that we can use as a buffer for any projects that come up throughout the year. Keeping in mind that this also takes sales tax, the gas franchise fee, and gambling, the donation fund that we have. It takes those out of the net income, as those are restricted funds. The remaining items, wage increases, I think we got that pretty well nailed down. Any council items that would like to be included tonight, tonight would really be kind of the last time for the general fund. If anything needed to be added for the liquor store, sewer, water, we can certainly look at those in the future. Any sales tax ideas that anybody has for projects for next year could be brought up now as well. They don't need to be decided on, but as we get into December and finalize that budget, we'd like to include those. The capital improvement for roads, if anybody would like to put a levy increase specifically restricted for road projects, we could discuss that as well. Slides 11 and 12 take a look at some of the surrounding communities with Barnum, Carlton, and Proctor. Moose Lake is just the city portion of the property taxes. Moose Lake is lower than those communities. Willow River and Renshaw we're a little bit higher than those communities. And really, this just kind of goes to show that we're in the middle, which is, I think, kind of along the lines of where we'd like to be. But also points to, I think, one of the largest complaints that we receive is that property taxes in Moose Lake are high. We can only control the city portion of that levy. And if anybody's been here when the hospital has come, I'll keep bringing up that levy, the fire district, the school, the county. There's lots of things that happen in this community that are outside of our jurisdiction, I guess. Page 13 has the historical levy information. And really I bring this up for two reasons. One is to look, for instance, this year at the tax rate, which the tax rate shows a 0% increase. The tax levy, the actual dollar amount, does increase. Like I said before, the levy increase comes from the additional value of Moose Lake, which went up by about $100,000 last year. We are currently 71.5% tax exempt, so we do not even levy against 30%. We levy against less than 30% of the value of Moose Lake. Slide 14, 15, and 16 are all about the debt service. We have three debt service bonds that we levy for. The first one is the 2011 A bond. We levy $41,333 to pay for that debt service. The additional revenue comes from the township or the fire district. That bond is to pay for this building as well as the fire and police department building. The debt service for 2014A, which is for Park Place Drive, the general levy for that is $40,000 is being proposed for next year, with the additional revenue coming from special assessments along that roadway. That one is there again, that's the one where that fund balance will go negative and then will work itself back out by year 15. Debt service for 2017A, that was for 3rd Street and Kenwood, as well as the Highway 73 projects. The general property tax levy for that one being proposed is $35,000, with any additional revenue needed coming from sales tax. Right now, we have a fund balance, so we haven't been making that transfer. There will come a time where that fund balance runs out and we will begin to make that transfer, but we don't really need to quite yet. Page 17 is the summary for the water fund. The big thing here is the net income continues to be negative with the water fund. I would suggest a 3% rate increase, which would bring in about $7,500 of additional money. We would still have a net loss, however, it would slow that down. Slide 18 shows what the impact on residents would be. That 3% increase would be about 68 cents per month to customers, which, yes, is an increase, but I mean, inflation happens to all of us here. So the sewer fund, there again, the net income with this is proposed at a net loss of $113,972, and that's because fill is expensive, but also because what I would like to do with the capital funds is increase from $25,000 to $100,000 and line 1/4 of the sewer main that collects most of the sewage for the downtown area. So that does show a very large increase in the net loss, but there is a purpose, and we do have reserves to fund that. I would suggest, or what I am suggesting, is a 2% rate increase, which on slide 20, a 2% increase would be about 50 cents per customer, which there again, just slows the reduction in that fund balance. Water and sewer CIP, I talked a little bit about. Water, the big thing with the well house is we're planning on breaking a few valves in sections of water main. And this allows us to fund those without it just being an emergency. We'll just plan ahead a little bit of additional funds for that project and any breaks that come from it. And then obviously the sewer I talked about already with lining. Slide 22, the liquor store, at this time, I would just say the liquor budget is not done. We'll just say that the liquor store budget's not done. We're gonna review the budget again in November and probably again in December prior to bringing it here. We will have a final budget, but we do need a little bit more information before that one is done. The DMV on slide 23, the DMV has a net loss of $39,100, but keeping in mind that we have a capital project for redoing the offices for the DMV, which is the cause for the large increase in the net loss. However, we did receive $35,000 from the state for additional expenses incurred going through the change in that system. So we do have money to pay for this. My hope is that we can just quickly use that money before it gets swallowed up into an ongoing budget. All of those enterprise funds, the water, the sewer, liquor, and DMV, none of those need to be approved tonight. They're just informational and kind of part of a bigger picture. What we do need to look at is slide 24, which is the levy figures, and those are the total, the general fund levy, as well as the 3 debt service. The total levy, the first column on this, or row, on this spreadsheet are the total levy dollar amount that needs to be passed tonight. And then the other thing is the date of the public hearing, which would be December 11th of 2019. So I guess my first question is, page 25 kind of brings up the capital improvement projects, the road projects. Is there any interest at this time for setting a levy? Again, we would restrict this levy for the use of road improvements and utility improvements to go along with our capital improvement plan. Is there any interest at this time in creating that levy at this time?
Not by me.
Okay, so then that kind of allows us to go back to this previous slide, slide 24. The way that the budget is set right now, it has the wage increases that we talked about, health insurance, prosecution service, all of those changes that we've already talked about are all built into the budget right now. We do have a net income of $38,000 that allows for a buffer, and that is with a 0% levy increase. Now, I will say this, if somebody wanted to set it at a 1 or 2% increase, with the plan of bringing it down to 0 in December, that's fine. It basically, anything that comes up between now and December that would change our budget negatively, if we set it at 0, we can't set it at 1 or 2 later on. So it's up to you. The way that the budget's set right now, I am perfectly comfortable setting it at 0%. I don't foresee anything popping up that would be that dramatic over the next couple months. That being said, it would not be unheard of to simply set a little bit of a gap in there and then come back from it in December.
Council?
I'm for keeping it at 0.
I make a motion that we set it at 2% maximum. We can always bring it back to 0, but we can't go back forward once we set it. So I would make a motion that we set it at 2% maximum.
And just to clarify, the total levy amount for that would be $703,406.
That was my motion.
So we do have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And open it up for discussion.
I agree, we can't go, if something comes up, we can't extend it out, we can go back though, so. So I would support that.
And I do agree with what you're saying, Paul. That's just the reason why I'm saying it, is that we can't go backwards. So
I understand.
in December, we can go to 0 if there's nothing that comes up.
Very good. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. Thank you.
We also need a motion for the date, and that date would be December
December
11th.
11th.
Let me just make sure before we go past it. December 11th. I would suggest that we do that one at 6 o'clock. I know our meetings are at 4. Just to set a public hearing at 6 o'clock, especially for taxes, I think would be wise.
Did you say so moved?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All right, then it's for remove at 6 PM on December 11th.
Correct.
Is that correct? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Administrator.
Mm-hmm.
Good job with the budget. And Katie, thank you also. Then moving down, we already did 6B, that brings us to 6C, liquor store bathroom repair quotes.
There's 2 quotes in your packet, starting on page 59 there, to replace 3 toilets, 1 urinal, 2 bathroom sinks. The low bid on this one was from Summit / All Service Plumbing for $5,050. We budgeted $5,000 for capital for these projects. So we do have the funds for it.
Can I ask where this place is out of?
Duluth?
I think Duluth.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we accept the low bid of $5,050.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to 6D, hydrant manhole catch basin repair quotes.
Do you want to talk about this? We talked about this like 2 months ago, and I cannot for the life of me remember what all these are for.
Bring me up to speed on this stuff. Sorry.
Install new manhole on, no, first one is dig up the fire hydrant at Quick Trip.
So just east of the entrance to Quick Trip, there is a fire hydrant that is pushed off the stub, and meaning what that means is the hydrant is physically pushed away from the pipe to where it's leaking. It's been shut off now for a while, and it's on our punch list to get done here before it frees up. You see that turn back on.
Second one is the manhole on 6th Street.
So in your, I believe, the estimate, this month might have been so disappointed in my vendors, I'm sorry. But anyway, regardless, because the emails I got back were just terrible. But anyway, I believe in one of them, it's called out as a lamp hole. Years ago, back in the 50s, they put lamp holes in places with manholes. However, now, today, with the cleaning equipment we have, you cannot use lamp holes. You physically cannot get equipment in them to clean them. What we want to do is we want to place it with a manhole, which gives accessibility for me or one of my guys to go in there and properly clean it. Right now, it's a hole in the ground. It's about 6 inches in diameter, and we were replacing it with a 4-foot manhole.
And then the last one is replace the existing catch basin on 4th Street, which I can speak to. We have a sinkhole in front of City Hall, which Phil doesn't believe me, but it's a sinkhole.
There's a catch basin that has failed, yes. Yes.
So as far as money goes, we do have funds. Actually, I think we budgeted specifically for a hydrant replacement in 2019 out of the water fund. As far as the sewer fund goes, not only are we coming in under budget, we still have capital funds available for this. We also are only gonna be able to do one sewer cleaning rather than two this year, which will save some money. So there's a few ways. Our sewer department right now looks really, really good budget-wise, which is why by the end of the year, we might buy a lawnmower. But we have the funds in both the water and sewer department to pay for these two projects. So I would recommend that we approve Goebel's estimate, which is the low bid on this.
Open for questions, discussion, and your motion.
I'll make a motion, we accept the low bid from Global Excavating.
And a second? Discussion, just a quick one on the fire hydrant. Was that hit by something? It just moved? Lost?
I have no idea, but it is the fourth one on that section of Maine since it was put in only 15 years ago that we've had issues with.
Wow.
So it was put in a long time ago, 15 years ago?
15 years ago, yeah.
So it's not new construction?
No, but for our infrastructure, it's pretty,
It's
it's awesome. Being honest, you know.
Thank you, yeah, okay, that's surprising.
Please stay up there.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And the next 6E, excavator rental quotes.
I think Phil just liked the last time that we rented it and wants to do it again.
Right, that's what it is, yeah. So actually, what we're gonna do is we're gonna expand our area behind our shop. If you look back there now, I think everyone was sent that email from Byron. So we made a whole bunch of room, and we filled it all up, and we don't really have enough. So we have more land to clear off and level up, and I'd like to do that.
So this one, our original plan with the capital funds in the Public Works Department was to start putting away money for a new front end loader. Our original plan was that, I think we were putting like $10,000 away this year or something. We're talking about a $230,000 piece of machinery, so I'm not sure. I think it was with good intentions, but we were a bit naive in thinking that putting away $10,000 would get us a new front end loaders magically. So we're rethinking that, and we'd like to use the $10,000 of additional capital that we have. It's still within our budget, and put it towards these next two items. So this conversation applies to the next item as well. But I will say this, if you haven't seen Byron's email, please read Byron's email that talks about cleaning up the area in front of the shop. If you have not been to the shop lately, I would strongly urge you to go to the shop, look at the back of the shop. It looks amazing being finished off with all the equipment inside. The entire area that they removed all the trees, leveled it all out, added drainage. They built bunkers for Clarissa for dirt, wood chips. They have a gate. I mean, it's looking pretty good back there. So it looks like a shop. So I do think that certainly this is needed and is helping out already.
So we're talking about 6E and F
Yep.
together.
No, so just E,
Just
F
to
is,
start with.
the money comes from the same conversation,
All right.
but F will be different. The low bid on this one was Ziegler.
I think I'll have to abstain. I think my nephew has quotes in here for E and F.
That's fine, so just work down the other things.
I'll make a motion that we accept the low quote for Ziegler of $4,000.
Second. Open for discussion, questions?
I'll say, you know, that they're doing a very good job down there cleaning up that whole area. My thoughts on it is that they just keep following the old creek farther to the north and keep expanding and improving all that it's actually gonna look really nice through that whole area.
Yeah, I agree.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6F, skeleton bucket quotes.
This, just for the record, this comes out of the same money that we were just talking about, that $10,000 that we set aside. And you can you can talk about what you want to do with it.
So, this is another attachment for our skid steer, which mind you, that was a wonderful purchase, because we use it daily and everyone in the department uses it. This is gonna be used for clearing right-of-ways, brush piles, the brush pile that we deal with daily, stump removal. This would be a key piece of equipment to have during a storm here. It was 2 or 3 years ago, we had a pretty good windstorm go through here, and I think we cleaned up trees for, I think, almost a month by the time we were all done. And this would have been ideal. This is a bucket that goes in the front of the skid steer that has grapple arms that you can basically grab debris and remove it and haul it around. And I think this would be a very, very well-used piece of equipment for us to have.
G2 implement would be the low bid on this one.
And before we go any farther, I highlighted the wrong attachment from Caterpillar out of their book. G2 is still lower by a mile. However, the price from Caterpillar with the state pricing, what I have written on there is $3,627. If you jump down to the skeleton grapple bucket, it's going to be the model number SGV72 is actually a little different total with state bid pricing is 7% less. That book price is going to figure out to be $35,0145. So I understand G2 is still cheaper. I just wanted to make sure that we were legit and apples were apples and so on and so forth. So I just actually caught that when I was sitting there in the chair. So my apologies there.
So that is what Titan, the same number here, 72-inch film?
Yep, it's equivalent, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Open for discussion and our motion.
I'll make the motion, we accept the low bid from, is this the G2 implement?
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. That brings us to, yes, sir.
You want to do 7, 8, and 9 prior to closing the meeting?
We can. Moving down to 7, reports and correspondence, Minnesota Rural Water Association. Thank you. Do you have a page number?
Yeah.
71.
71.
Yeah, it starts out on page, 70, goes on to 71. I think Phil's paying people to send these, but this is a thank you to the city council for allowing them to have the training in Moose Lake. It was at the depot. They also expressed some nice words about the staff that the city has as well. So Phil made sure that I put it in the packet.
Very good. Thank you, Phil.
Nice
Yes, I
work.
did. Yes, I
Good job. And then we also have 7B from Rob Bender, a thank you.
did. Same thing, just a thank you to the Public Works crew for doing a good job and making the town look beautiful. So, yeah.
Thank you very much again. Please pass it on, you guys.
Will do.
Thank you. Any other comments for the council? Can I move on? Okay, number 8, committees and board meeting minutes. 8A, the Moose Lake Power Special Meeting Minutes, July 9th, 2019. The Moose Lake Power Regular Meeting Minutes, July 16th, 2019. Moose Lake Library Board Meeting Minutes, August 12th, 2019. The Moose Lake Economic Development Authority Meeting Minutes, August 14th, 2019. And the Moose Lake Planning Commission Meeting Minutes, August 15th, 2019.
Did the library board meeting get changed?
They're just gonna skip September and go to October. So the minutes are fine. What do you mean?
These are for the next meetings coming up, right?
No, these are the minutes from the prior meeting.
That's where I'm on.
And now below announcements, regular Moose Lake City Council meeting Wednesday, October 9th at 4 PM. Right here, Moose Lake Economic Development Authority, Wednesday, October 9th at 12 PM, City Conference Room. Moose Lake Water and Light Commission, regular meeting Tuesday, September 17th, 3 PM, the Water and Light Office. Moose Lake Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board, October 14th, 11 AM, Hillside Manor North, office. Moose Lake Area Fire District, Tuesday, October 8th, 6:30 PM at the Emergency Response Center. Moose Lake Park Board meeting, Monday, October 7th, at 6:30, right here. And the Library Board meeting, October 14th, 1 PM at the City Conference Room. And at this time, we're going to jump back to the 6G and 6H, which is going into a closed meeting because of personnel discussion.
As well as negotiation.
And negotiation.
Land negotiation, which is also a close one.
We'll need a motion to close the regular meeting and then open, the motion to open the closed meeting.
I'll make that motion to close. Regular meeting.
Have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then a motion to open the closed meeting.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we will halt at this time.